Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, you're going to be meeting Trisha Holderman. She calls herself the Germinator. She's going to be talking about the bacteria that's all around us next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
You know, this is the summer travel season, and of course a lot of Americans right now are staying in different hotels. I'm sure you've seen those reports on the news where they take one of those black lights and they show you where all the germs are. Somebody who knows this area very well is my next guest, and a good friend, Trisha Holderman. She's the CEO of Elite Facility Systems. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, I love the name Germinator. How did that come about?
So during the pandemic, Forbes was trying to put together some books that would help consumers understand more about the germs. And a friend of mine who is good friends with them said, and you know, it's all about networking in our world, mentioned to them that I was doing germ work. And so we had to come up with a name for the book. And one night over a glass or two or a bottle or two of wine, my friends and I came up with that name.
I love it.
And it has stuck.
Well, it's a great name for you. You also go by the Germ Girl,
Yeah.
and so you're great at marketing and branding. Let's talk a little bit about your journey. Have you always been fascinated with germs?
Absolutely not. I have one of those firsthand kind of stories where I was cleaning. I owned a cleaning business back in '78. I started it and ended up having Crohn's disease, getting really sick, landed in a hospital, and just kept getting infection after infection after infection. And started trying to figure out more and more about what I can do to take care of myself, because those nurses have 50 patients to take care of. Sure. But I needed to learn how to keep myself safe from these infections. Because when you live in a hospital and you're still getting germs,
yes,
you're not getting them from outside. You are getting them from inside. And so it's your job to protect yourself. And that was, again, back in the 70s and 80s when there wasn't a lot of that, you know, anything but bleach and water was cleaning at that point. We've come a long way in the technology of not just chemicals, but the processes, the equipment. That has changed drastically. And so I've just always stayed on the front line of learning everything that's new about germs. And then, of course, you know, every few years we have a new germ that comes out. And so we have to learn the whole processes over again for each germ. And so staying ahead of that has been what has made me very successful.
Sure. Well, you've built a fabulous company. We're going to pull up your personal website, TrishaHolderman.com. And on this website, it gets into everything from your media success to the different kinds of clients that you work with, and even your best-selling book. I don't want to, spoil anything, but you've actually worked with some really big professional sports teams.
I have.
What is that like?
So working with the NFL and the NBA both, so you bring all you know about germs from hospital background, because I do come from a healthcare cleaning background, but being able to parlay that into what a team needs or what a university needs or even what a television studio might need, airplanes. It really kind of started back with the AIDS breakout, where we were able to start working with companies that needed more and more information about keeping the people in their buildings safe. Then when Ebola came along, it was a whole different world. We were getting called from apartment complexes and such. So continually learning what the new germ is, how best to keep people safe, how it's transferred, how to keep people understanding what they need to do or not do, what they need to buy or not buy. There was a lot going on during the pandemic that was just bogus information. And so being able to help people understand, I did a lot of public speaking during that time to help people understand what is real and what is not real.
Yes.
And you know, to everything there's going to be a myth, and there's going to be the good things and the bad things that come out.
Well,
we do.
You've truly made yourself an international thought leader on germs. Let's go ahead and show the cover of her best-selling book, Germinator, The Germ Girl's Guide to Simple Solutions in a Germ-Filled World. Okay, when did you write the book?
During the pandemic. So we wrote the pandemic. This is a very much a infection prevention 101. So if your kid is playing sports and they come home from the practice field, you want to know the best way to keep those things clean. It's not just throwing them in the washing machine. You do need to make sure it's at the right temperature. You need to make sure you're using the right chemicals. Because not every germ is killed by the same thing. You may need a sanitizer to kill a bacteria, whereas just hot water could kill another type of germ. It just depends on the pathogens. And what we're seeing, especially in school athletic gear, is that they're being just washed at home.
Yes.
But you're getting helmets that have been used for like 20 years. We need to be sanitizing those helmets every single year, and literally after every single time they're used. They're now doing that at a much better level than they were before.
Sure.
But I remember one of my very first cases is back, God, I want to say in the 90s. There was a young man who had a helmet that he'd used in high school he was going to, and it started eating his flesh. And they found out it was because of that helmet had so much pathogens built up on it, so many germs on it, that his skin wasn't capable of fighting against it. So we're not seeing those kind of cases very much anymore, but I think it's because the consumers are being more and more educated about what they can do.
Sure. Why don't you do some myth busting for me? Because this is a story that I've heard is that, when I was growing up, if you dropped that lollipop on the ground, your parent would pick it up, wipe it off, and stick it right back in your mouth again. Is there a healthy amount of germs so that you're building up a resistance, or no?
So not on the food stuff. Yeah, I do believe, yes, being around people to get some of the germs to build up but the food, no, because what happens on the floor is, everything that you walked outside on, there could be dog doo-doo residue on your shoes, there could be pesticide residues on your shoes, and you're bringing those into the house. Unless you're one of those people that takes your shoes off of the door every time you walk in the house, your house is going to get germs on the floor. And while you may think, just since you've mopped the floor, it's a lot like having your teeth cleaned. Unless you are scrubbing that floor every couple of months, you're still going to have that residue of germs even after you mopped it. The first time you walk back on that floor again, you've just reinfected it with whatever goo you had from outside.
Well, and Tricia is a very accomplished speaker. She speaks all over the planet. I found a little clip on YouTube. Let's go ahead and roll that.
I opened the maid service when I was 17 years old. As I was going through the next couple of years, I cleaned for a bunch of doctors' houses who then said, let's start cleaning my offices. I went out and searched all I could about infection control for offices, and it was amazing. Back in 1978, there was basically no infection control. You walked into a hospital and everything was being bleached, basically. This is how we measure dirty stuff. Let's see, who has a cell phone?
After she showed me how many germs are on my phone and other things that we touch during the day, gas stations, elevators, remote controls, things of that nature, we really need to be very cognizant of the germs that are there and the diseases that they cause.
Most people realize that their cell phones are a little bit dirty and they think wiping their cell phone is the idea. The true thing you want to do is anytime that you've been out in the public, you pumped your gas, you use your ATM, wash your hands or use sanitizer. I mean, I have to tell you, there's elevator buttons where we've gotten like 12 to 25,000 living germs on there. I mean, it is phenomenal what you see.
I thought it was very, very interesting as a self-employed business owner. The health of my employees are very, very important. I have a son-in-law with Crohn's disease, and I just think that this was very, very valuable.
Everywhere that you're traveling to, you put your stuff on this, and there will be no germs transferred from anywhere, and any germs that are on here will be dead in the morning when you wake back up. This is the kind of technologies that are changing infection prevention and infection control from crossing across countries and things.
I learned a lot. Trisha Holderman was captivating. I think we were all a very, very interested audience and learned a lot about sanitizing and taking care of germs and bacteria in my home and other places as well.
This year, I mean, we got calls from like elementary schools, manufacturing plants. The NFL didn't even think infection prevention until a couple of years ago. And now they're actually hiring infection preventionists to make sure that their team members are safe.
Tricia, you're a very good public speaker. I can only imagine, just the shock at seeing how many germs are on a cell phone. You also do a lot of consulting. Talk about your consulting.
I do, and I love doing that part because every single building is different. If I'm walking into a Class A building, I want to do everything from the indoor air quality, the water quality, even the type of furniture, whether it's disinfectable, should there be an outbreak. And then, even down to nursery schools. I've worked in quite a few of these whenever they have an outbreak of whether it's bed bugs or a germ like a flu or something. I want to be the retardator of that germ outbreak. I want to be the person that you call to say, make sure that I'm keeping my building as safe as possible for everybody that walks in here, whether it's staff, visitors, students, patients. My whole passion about germs is making it safe for everyone.
Sure.
And I do that because I've had to live through it first. I've lived through infections and I've been sick of Crohn's disease. So it's a constant wanting to make sure everybody else is as safe as I am.
And your expertise is leagues above like a typical cleaning crew for an office building.
So we actually don't do the cleaning of buildings anymore. We used to. I still own the maid service and a janitorial service, but we're doing more and more of infection prevention. So it's no longer. This is why we're doing some service for NBA and NFL teams, is because it is such a specialized type of cleaning. We do a lot of operating rooms where we're training their in-house staff the best way to keep those rooms safe. So when a patient is in there with their guts wide open, there's no germs getting in there.
Yes.
My job is to make sure the people who are taking care of those buildings are in great shape, but it's also bringing it to the building owners and managers, making sure they understand these are some processes you can put in place. You can use those in your marketing plan. You can use them in your risk mitigation plan. There are so many ways to make your building safe for everybody coming into it.
And since you kind of opened the door, hospital-acquired infections is a big deal, isn't it?
Yes. And so I love that in America, if a hospital has more than 3% of an infection, they shut it down. I have worked in foreign countries where if they have 50%, they still keep them open. And it's dreadfully scary to work in a place where you know you're going to get an infection when you walk in. Why would you go there?
Right.
And yet they do. But they don't have a choice.
Okay, Tricia, we're almost out of time. Why don't we end with a final thought? What would you like to leave the viewers with?
Keep yourself safe from germs because nobody else is going to do it for you.
Great way to put this segment to rest. We're going to end with her website, which is TrishaHolderman.com. Tricia, thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.